Tony Abreu here with Perceptive Outdoors. In this video, we are going to be installing my new XQ Thermion Pulsar XQ50 onto my rifle. So I got the scope a couple of days ago, last week actually, and I used some rings that I had which weren't really that good, and then I ordered basically a one-piece ring with locking cam locks on it. So we're going to be putting it on using this, and we're going to be installing it right now. So stay tuned. All right, so tools we're going to need for this video. We're going to need a one-piece scope mount, which is what I have here. And I bought this off of Amazon. There will be a link in the description below. It was a little over $30, and it looks pretty strong. We're going to test it out anyways. You can spend anywhere from 16 bucks all the way to 250 bucks on a mount. But for me, I'm not using it every night or whatever, and this looks pretty beefy for what it is, so I guess we'll have a review on this later. But this is the cam lock mount. And then also what you're going to need is an Allen wrench. This mount actually did not come with an Allen wrench, but it uses a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. Also, you're going to need a rifle to put it on. This is my Core 15 220 or 5.56. And also you're going to need the Pulsar Thermion. Now this is the XQ50, and this thing is bad. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's awesome. So I've had this scope a week, and the first night I took it out, I was able to kill 2 coyotes double, and actually 3 run in, but they were really close, and this thing is awesome. So really looking forward to racking up some video with this thing, and also showing everything to do with what's going on with it by doing videos like this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock the cams, and I'm going to just put the lock or the mount on the gun. That's as far as it'll go. Nope, can't use that one, so we got to go forward one. And that's pretty tight. I can tighten it up a little more, but for right now, we're just going to put it on the gun. I'm going to take these loose.
Just a quick note here. After installing the Thermion on 2 different rifles using the same brand of mount, you want to make sure that you keep the top screws on the rings separated from the bottom screws, and make sure you put the top ones back in the top and the bottom ones back in the bottom. I did not do that here, and it just doesn't make the install as clean as it could be. So just a quick note to help you keep it neat. It still works if you don't, but to me it's just a cleaner install if you do it that way.
These are sideways on this mount. There's another mount out there that's 180 bucks that has sideways mounts. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work using these, having the gun upright, but I guess we will soon see. All right, well, the first thing I need to check here is to see if this is actually going to fit. And yes, it is. I was kind of worried about right here in the clearance, but it's got over 1/4 inch, so that's pretty good right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to center this between the rings. Right now I'm not worried about this at all and the distance it is, because it's on the farthest back position that it can be in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to center it between the rings, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting the bolts back in it, and then I'll level everything up after that. You have to be careful with this mount because on the bottom, it's kind of the rings are loose on both sides and they clamp to a centerpiece. So if you take your fingers off of it without having something, without putting the bottom bolts in, might be in trouble. It might fall off, and I'm just noticing now that there are bigger bolts for the bottom and littler bolts for the top, so I'm going to change those really quick. Now that I have all the bolts started, I'm going to go ahead and start snugging everything up evenly, and then as soon as I get it to where it's close to being snug, I will adjust my scope level left and right to make sure that I'm completely in the center of the rings here, this way. I would recommend using Loctite on this. I don't have any Loctite with me right this second, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to go ahead and put them on and tighten them up. Should be fine. But I would recommend using Loctite. So this mount specifically, definitely want to do the bottom first, because what the bottom does is it snugs it up to the rail. Now I'm going to look through the scope here. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm just going to look through it and make sure it's level horizontally. So once you get all 4 screws in, what you're going to want to do is just tighten them down ever so slightly until the scope doesn't move. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually level the scope up to the gun. Now I'm going to go ahead and level it up to the gun. It's pretty tight there. And all I'm doing is checking out the flat piece on the actual mount itself and trying to get these knobs here parallel to those. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to look at it. That's level there. All right, now I'm going to start tightening everything down. All right, so now I'm snug on the ring part of it, and from there, now I'm going to loosen up my cams and tighten up the cams just a little bit, and then I'm gonna actually test the gun and see where my eye relief goes. But that's pretty much gonna be the end of this part. So all we were doing was we're installing the scope on the rings. The next part will be for me to adjust my scope forward and backwards to my eye relief to the proper settings so I don't hit myself in the eye with it. Then after that, I'm going to take the scope out and I'm going to sight it in. All right, so just a quick note about this mount. I really wanted to talk about this mount because number one of how cheap it is, but it feels very solid, number one. But number two, if you look right here on the video that I did on the first installation, I didn't really talk about how to actually tighten up the mount to the Picatinny rail. And actually that was because I didn't really understand how to do it. But the more I messed with it, the more I figured it out. So if you see these 2 screws right here, there's one there and one there. That's for the mount. And what you do is basically, I'm going to flip this upside down. Basically, you open up your cams here and open them up, and then you take and you push in, and when you push in from this side over here, it pushes that bolt out some. And all I did was just take a socket. I mean, you don't even need a ratchet, you just need a socket. When you're pushing on the one side, you push the socket in there and you just barely tighten it up a little bit, and then you go ahead and take your cam lock and you close it down. And what you want to do is make sure it's snug. Now, the thing that I did learn is that if you over tighten it, it will not let you snug it. It will not let you close the lock. So you have to get it into a certain spot, but it's not real hard to get it to a spot where you can, get it snug. So it's very minimal movements. So basically you open the cam lock, you push it through, you push the socket into it, you adjust it slightly, and then you close it down and make sure it's snug. It's very snug. This is a very sturdy mount here, and I just wanted to share that because, you know, I did part of the whole installation, and that I thought that was a really pivotal part of the installation. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This mount right here, I definitely recommend if you need a mount and you don't want to spend 180 bucks on a mount. This mount is very well made. I actually talked about it earlier in the video that I mounted this same scope on a Browning bar as well. I'll show a picture on the screen right now. It's the same brand of mount, but instead this is an offset mount, meaning like it's pushing the actual rings forward, so it's an offset mount. The other one is just basically has the two rings directly on top of the mount, which worked well for the Browning bar, but it's the same company and the same concept and very well made. Link in the description below if you want to get this mount. I highly recommend it. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.